election campaign in 2012. He was also deputy chief of staff to the president at the White House, CEO of the Messina Group. And Rich Galen, Republican strategist and former communications director for the House Speaker Newt Gingrich, and Kayleigh McEnany, CNN political commentator and a Trump supporter. Thank you all so much for joining me. Jim, first to you. Not, as I've said, not a surprise that the president is backing Hillary Clinton. The timing seemed to catch everyone off guard. What do you make of it?
Well, look, I love the way he did it. I love that he did it directly to his supporters through a video, very Obama campaign-esque. I think it's exactly the right time and the right message.
But it's not a video. It wasn't a big event. What does that say to you, Rich? What do you make of it?
Well, I tweeted that while I was watching it. I wondered why they just didn't put him in the briefing room and let him do it there. He wouldn't have had to take questions. He could have just done it. That would have been pretty, I think, a lot more energetic, frankly, Jim. But the other thing that struck me is he said that she's the most qualified person in history to be president. That was also true 8 years ago, but it didn't seem to bother him then.
Jim, but quick before I bring Kayleigh into this, what do you think that means for what went on in that meeting today between the president and Bernie Sanders? We heard from Josh Earnest before we came on that Bernie Sanders was not surprised that that the president told him this was going to happen. What do you think that meant for being in that room?
Well, look, you have two guys who served together for a long time in the Senate, who are friends, who, as Josh Earnest said today at the White House, have spent their lives fighting for the same ideals. And so I don't think anyone was surprised that now that the primary process is over, the president's going to endorse the presumptive nominee. And I'm sure Bernie wasn't surprised. I think the bigger conversation that went on in that room is how do we work together? How do we unify this party to take on Donald Trump, because there isn't a Democrat alive who wants to see Donald Trump elected president of the United States.
Oh, and Kayleigh, that's one thing that you heard from Bernie Sanders when he came out of the meeting with the president. The president in his endorsement video did not mention Donald Trump, but we know that he's talked about that obviously in the past. It seems that if one thing is unifying Democrats right now, it is coming out against Donald Trump.
Well, that's certainly what they're going to try to do to unify the party, but that's the thing. It's unifying Democrats, but the Bernie coalition is made up of millennials. It's made up of independents, and independents aren't necessarily going to lockstep walk over to the Democrat Party. Likewise, millennials who have either never voted before or perhaps voted for Barack Obama once, 4 or 8 years ago, they're not necessarily going to turn out the way they did for Barack Obama. So I think they have a huge challenge on their hands. It's not like the establishment coming to the outsider, as we saw with the Republican Party. They have party loyalty. Here, you don't have that same necessary party loyalty, I think, that will make this unification easy.
Hey, Kate, I think that's just a real difference. I mean, there's no way a Bernie Sanders supporter is going to go support a guy who uses racial language on a judge, who wants to build an 80-foot wall, and who wants to divide this country. We ought to stop talking about these supposed Sanders supporters who are going to go vote for Donald Trump, because they just don't exist.
We do, but that's the thing, and that's a very interesting thing. And you can jump in this in a second, Kayleigh, because that is what we've heard often throughout the primary season, is that Donald Trump seems to think that these independents, the legions of Bernie Sanders supporters, that he'll be able to draw them over. Where's the evidence that you see of that, Kayleigh?
Well, there are a lot of polls that suggest that. In fact, a poll came out yesterday showing a full 11% say that they would vote for Donald Trump. But even if they don't decide to vote for Donald Trump, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to turn out on behalf of Hillary Clinton. She does not resonate with millennials. Millennials are the reason that she lost Iowa in 2008. They did not turn out for her basically at all this election. So even if they don't turn out for Donald Trump, and I think a significant amount will because of his trade message, I don't think that they are going to show up for Hillary Clinton.
Rich, do you think, I mean, even though you are not a Democrat, Rich, but is this the kind of, looking at the Democratic side, is this the kind of party unity you're dreaming of right now, considering what you're looking at on your side?
This goes on every 4 or 8 years, depending upon when it is. Let's go back to Iowa in 2008. She lost Iowa in 2008 because John Edwards was in the race with her. They split the